Ruben relaxed in the freshly planted garden of the bijou home he shared with his wife, Carol. They clinked together their glasses of chilled Zinfandel in celebration of all things new as they reflected on their successes in life to date. With a naughty glint in her eye, Carol slid across the table a bowl of tantalizing salad greens for Ruben to taste. Both advocates of the vegan diet, they felt as much pride in the greenery growing around them as they took pride in their appearance, or more specifically, how they appeared to others. With homegrown vegetables always on hand and their media channel Cottaging Garden swelling in market share girth, the couple were on the brink of something big. Cottaging Garden had not technically been their idea. The seemingly sweet, temporarily challenged lady next door had created her own website and they had improved upon the idea. Mr. Sell, for, as so many of ye olde generation, their neighbour was very formal. Mr. Sell, have you visited my internet website? He had not. Oh, you must peruse the various pages on the internet of my website, Mr. Sell, where I detail all my gardening secrets and life-earned wisdom on the secrets from the cottage garden. Her recommendation to Ruben was so mysterious and tempting, he could not resist taking a crafty peek. His curiosity was rewarded with a plethora of encyclopedic knowledge on how to start, develop, and maintain a successful cottage garden. And so it was that Ruben and his wife not only lived very healthily and almost very happily on their own home-grown produce, but also gave them the idea to turn somebody else's hard-earned insider wisdom into a media channel full of content and a very lucrative business. Each day they would uproot an item from their neighbour's website and plagiarize it into an informative 5-minute video, or 30-second tiki-toki, an in-depth webinar, or even a live stream on Twitch. Here they would receive crypto tips for planting a wide variety of vegetables and salad greens, whilst also being bombarded with comments about urinals. This was all going as smoothly as an aubergine's outermost bits until Ruben received a very mysterious and cryptic email. It was blank, except for the title, which read, "I know what you're doing." "Is this about urinals?" Ruben replied. "No," came the sharp reply with a sweary emoji and a nuclear explosion head emoji. "You are stealing from your neighbour." Upon seeing this, Ruben slammed shut his laptop and pretended that he had not seen anything about stealing gardening tips or urinals or anything. And his denial lasted for a couple of days before hitting a problem. Sensing Ruben was withholding an important detail that may prevent her from reaching their mutually agreed goal of media self-actualization, Carol became rather disgruntled. She was so gruntled in the dis department, in fact, their usual Tuesday evening and Saturday morning acts of mutual grunting ceased forthwith. This was such a challenge for Ruben. It was not long before he broke down and told Carol everything about the mysterious email. On hearing this, Carol thought long and hard before devising a plan. Ruben must break through the security on their neighbor's website, download all the pages, and then delete the entire site, making it seem as if the site had never existed. Nobody knew about the site anyway, except for them, their neighbor, and some strange email blackmailer. This solution simply involved climbing over the site's firewall and doing some nifty technobabble MacGuffin on the other side. And should he succeed in this endeavour, Carol assured him the swift return of gruntlement would facilitate the resumption of mutually assured grunting very swiftly, or something to that effect. Over the firewall, steal the leaves and return, leaving no trace anywhere of anything cottagey or gardeny. All went well. Ruben went over the firewall. He swept right the leaves of content and was in the process of deleting everything on the website's server when disaster! There was a little pinging sound announcing the arrival of an email. It simply read, "Now I have proof." It was not long before the scandal broke on TMZ, and the cells found themselves accused of theft across the World Wide Web and in the real world by the courts of law. Unable to see a way out of his predicament, Ruben went down the route of begging for forgiveness. This was met with a demand from his mysterious neighbour's lawyers to hand over the fruits of whate'er he next grew, to which he agreed in writing, whilst secretly knowing the vasectomy he had several years ago prevented him from ever producing fruit. Sadly for Ruben's cell, Carol was so ashamed by the scandal and so ready to accept $1 million deal from Hello magazine for the real-life exclusive of Influencers Entrapped in a Sordid Sex for Stolen Website by Tech-Savvy Pensioner story. The cycle of gruntling to disgruntlement to grunting was one merry-go-round Carol wanted off of, so she left him. Ruben's takeaway in all this was not his misdemeanors. It was not a meditation on how much he had lost. It was not even a gourmet vegan banquet for one from the local Chinese. It was a brief clip of him leaving the courthouse, shot from a camera above him. The footage revealed a small patch of hair thinning on the top of his head. It was this which sent Ruben into a tailspin, followed by a long period of self-denial. Hearing voices in his head, he started to believe his neighbour to be the source of all his troubles and hair loss. In his delusional state, Ruben boarded up the ground floor of the Bijou dwelling and retreated to the one upstairs room, the window from which he gazed forlornly at the world, turning his back on society, taking solace in his digital devices. With a single weft in the tapestry of hope for the future, pride in his appearance became the thread to which Ruben grasped with a death-like grip. Constant Instagram searches on the topic of male pattern balding led to a general advice on growing a healthy head of flowing locks. These searches ensured the algorithm returned a constant supply of male grooming adverts, which, in turn, delivered a constant supply of male grooming products. As the years passed, Ruben's ever-growing mane was insufficient to meet his ever-growing hairology obsession. Now, manscaping in every aspect from sculpted brow to a perfectly smooth taint all comprised a significant part of Ruben's daily routine. Back, crack and sack were all luxuriously groomed in ways that rivaled topiary, and to the point where eventually anything that interfered with his beauty regime was pushed away. His psychological compartmentalization of denial slamming down shut on his survival instinct like that laptop so many years ago. Things became so dire that even the once beloved act of cooking a meal of fresh, homegrown vegetables was eschewed in favour of a faster way of gaining sustenance. Vegan egged on by his hunger, Ruben perused the online menus of Deliveroo, searching for the vegan options of everything from pizza to curry to kebabs, the concept of the latter being quite stomach-churning. Upon locating an ample degree of cheese and tofurkey, he would place his order, then sit back in anticipation of salivatory satisfaction. So far, so good. Ruben stared obsessively at the webpage as the message upon it went from "We're preparing your meal" to "quality checks," and finally to the coveted "It's on its way." The issue arose at the 11th hour when the delivery came to a climax. The home was now a prison with no means of ingress or egress. It suddenly became clear, after some discussion, there was only one route to oral satisfaction that avoided actually opening the door to a delivery driver, something our reclusive Ruben had not done for years. Ruben and his newfound Deliveroo friend worked out a kind of rope and pulley system using the tumbling tresses of Ruben's magnificent mane. So, more of a hair and pulley system. Unfurling his flowing locks from the window to ground, the driver tied the ends around the bag of food containers, and Ruben hauled on his prize. Success and satisfaction ensued. Ruben's culinary cravings were satisfied, whilst the delivery driver returned to his rounds with a potentially life-changing experience, but more accurately, a fun anecdote to tell his mates. And they all lived happily ever after, is what you yearn to hear at this point. But this is a fairy tale, which always have a grim end for someone. And it is exactly this our Ruben experienced. His end became most grim indeed. The discarded remains from all those delicious dishes began to spread out across that single room. Spreading turned to piles, which sounds like a warning teenagers were given in the 1950s, but is, in reality, simply a statement of fact when it comes to fast food mingled with a lack of domestic godness. This strange cityscape of plastic food containers attracted a host of biting, stinging friends who noshed away on all those leftovers. They also laid eggs in the leftovers, which turned into more friends to keep Ruben company in his sad and lonely isolation. With so many friends, Ruben could not keep up with their rampant appetites. So, starving and desperate for a replacement meal, the insects turned not to meal replacement milkshakes, because why would anyone do that? But instead, they started to enjoy the oils and olfactory sensations delivered to them via Ruben's hair and face and taint. If there is one thing worse than a strobe taint, it's maggot taint. Nobody wants to see that on another human being, and even more so on themselves. Thus, in his usual reaction of complete denial, Ruben threw all the mirrors out of the window, so he could now no longer see, and therefore could forget about his infestation. This was until those little blighters had made a meal of every available, luxuriously groomed follicle. The back, the crack, and the sack were all up for grabs to the host of biting, stinging invaders, who had no compunction about burrowing and liquefying and sucking back up through mouth straws in their never-ending pursuit of the vegan diet, or rather, a diet of fresh vegan. Being unable to sit comfortably with, amongst other things, the truth, Ruben Selle found himself, truthfully, unable to comfortably sit ever again. So, don't be stealing other people's intellectual property, their media, their words, or any results of their hard-earned experience. You'll end up a hair-obsessed recluse, sad and alone, surrounded by tower blocks of maggoty detritus and hordes of gooch munchers. Which sounds like an advertising campaign slogan for the Cumbernauld Tourist Board. And if not that, then at the very least, it will come back to bite you on the bum. And Ruben, he lived nappily ever after. This episode of Jez Ray's Happy Endings was sponsored by Pampers Vegan Nappies. Our revolutionary design of nappy that prevents leakage and fly infestation and are completely biodegradable. Freshly filled by vegan babies and delivered to your door, window or hair and pulley system by Deliveroo. Please like, subscribe, and if you want to know more, discover how to captivate, entertain, and immerse your audience through digital media with Jez Ray at speakerperformance.online. Jez Ray's Happy Endings was created by Jez Ray and Martin Pentecost, presented by Jez Ray. Copyright 2022, an Empower Publishing production.